But anyway, enough of the thyroid, I think.
Do we have to identify anything in the parathyroid gland? Cell types?
It's just chief cells is really all. Remember I said you can't really find any oxyphil cells, usually, because these are all from young animals, and oxyphil cells are usually inactive cells that occur with aging. So I don't usually focus much on those, and they're not different in the sense that they secrete something else. So then we did the adrenal. Adrenal, and color is important with the adrenal, just like we saw that bright red of the acidophilic stain. You will not see anything anywhere near approaching that green. Now, what I try to do to give you context is to show you, like, I'll try to show you the medulla, and so you can see the contrast in the color between the green and the purple. A lot of times that's more obvious when I don't have it at high power. So the adrenal, I tend to ask to show you something a little bit low. You see how much more obvious that is? Mm-hmm. But I do want you to be able to recognize the zones, and if it's not, it gets kind of far away from the surface, and I want to be able to show you the medulla if I wanted to ask you, let's say, about the glomerulosa. So, but I have to see what's obvious in the slides that I have to work with, and then that's what I indicate accordingly. So for example, glomerulosa, the individual cells are not there. Here's glomerulosa from here to here. Fasciculata is most of the way in toward the medulla. So some of these are not. I like to try and find some that aren't so thick, where it's not too long a distance, because I like to try and show you the green color. But even if you don't see the green, the structure of the adrenal gland should be pretty clear. You see this.
Are you taking off?
Yeah, this is in high power. It's much clearer. When you get, right by it. Let's see. So here you have glomerulosa, because they're all sort of big bundles of cells, right? These sort of roundish bundles of cells, like glomeruli. And then when you start getting these fascicles, these long chains of cells separated by these capillaries. You see more and more and more capillaries, very, very abundantly permeating, these fascicles of cells. So that's fasciculata. That's pretty telling. Even without any other context, you can see a couple things going on here. You can see what? You see these, they may be vertical, they may be horizontal, depending on the orientation of the tissue. You three, can you see anything from back there? Yeah. Yes? Sure? Okay. Okay, you have better eyes than I do. But anyway, this is, you can see these capillaries, this sort of parallel array of capillaries with these cells in between, and also notice they have all these lipid droplets. When you see a lot of cells with lipid droplets, and it's not adipose tissue, which of course is very distinct looking, that tells you have a cell that does what? Makes steroids. Because that's its supply of cholesterol is there in those lipid droplets. They appear empty because it's just oil, which is essentially, when the slides are made, and they're made the same way you made the slides of the breast, they go through a lot of immersion in xylene, which is a very nice solvent for dissolving fat, and paraffin. And so whatever was in those lipid droplets gets extracted, so they in fact not only look empty, they are empty by the time you see them. But to see these lipid droplets and these capillaries is very, very typical of fasciculata. So that's that, and the you know, and the did you get your picture? You got it. Is that and the green color.
The green is the reticulum.
Green is the medulla.
Where is the
Those
border
are the
between-
chromaffin cells. Chromaffin, affinity for chromium, which is chromosomal cells are green. And those chromaffin cells, they make adrenaline or noradrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine, right?
Where's the border between the reticularis and the?
And the medulla,
Yeah.
it's
Just
the border between pink and green.
so where's the border between the fasciculata and the reticularis?
That's a little tougher to distinguish. So what I would, in fact, here, if you look here, it looks like it's almost all fasciculata.
It's where
So
they
you
start
get right
bulging
in
up.
here. The reticularis here is just this thin band.
Okay.
You know, you can see the fascicles going all the way up to this point, right?
Yeah.
Parallel capillaries going in. Then you get they swell into various capillary sinuses, right just inside the border. Because remember the way the blood flows. The adrenal gland actually doesn't even get fed by one adrenal artery. The branches from the renal artery already branches before it even gets to the adrenal gland. By the time it gets under the capsule, it's already capillaries, and then the blood trickles down in toward the center, in toward the medulla, taking metabolites with them, and cells just do whatever to the steroid molecules that the enzymes they contain can do. If it has a 17-alpha hydroxylase, because it's a fasciculata cell, it'll do that. It has a side chain cleavage enzyme that will go to a C19 steroid that'll make androgens like the reticularis. It'll turn it into an androgen. And those remember this, once you get cholesterol side chain cleaved off, you have a molecule that has two oxygens, and it's small enough now that it can freely diffuse everywhere. And so synthesis is really a cooperative activity among any number of different cells, depending on where each molecule happens to diffuse in and out of. So that's just the way steroids are and are made. So. Okay, anything else on the adrenal? Okay. Pancreas. I'm doing these obviously in the order that we looked at them. Pancreas. Wiped it with my chromaffin tie, my chromaffin shirt. All right, let's see. Ah, look at that. That's luck for you. What are the odds?
Those are very distinct.
Right there, here we are on that's an islet, right? Can't beat that. Nice and big and round, and it fills up the field kind of nicely. So there's an islet, and then you can, if I might say something like name the organ or the gland, and name two hormones that might be secreted from one of these cells. So you could say what? Insulin, glucagon. What do the F cells make? F cells are a somatostatin.
Yeah.
Somatostatin or PPP, pancreatic polypeptide no, the F cells make PPP, the delta cells make somatostatin. But you probably figure since it's only ABC, I'll only ask you for two, right?
But they're not all within the islets, right?
What's that?
They're not all. They're not. All
they are. There's some. Apparently, there's some PPP or PPY may be made in some of the other cells. But this is basically the endocrine pancreas.
The islets.
The islets.
Okay.
S is silent.
S is silent.
S is silent. Okay. So. Yeah, now as far as other cells making hormone, almost every cell in the body is going to be endocrine cell for something, because cells communicate chemically, so not surprising that you find some hormones that are made by these cells, which are acinar cells, right? They make enzymes. So anyway, that's a really nice picture of an islet. Photo op here.
Acinar refers to the shape.
No, it refers to the fact that it's a small island of cells. An islet means a small island.
Acinar.
Oh, the acinar cells refers to, these are acini. An acinus is a very small, like little tubule.
What is it that you reference a lot about the shape of them? Like these are about around the periphery.
Well, you see, they're like you know, it's like a pizza where all the pepperoni is near the crust.
Yeah.
Near the. This is called the way I start to explain things when we get close to noon. It all becomes food. But anyway, that's you know, you see how the nuclei are all around the periphery.
Yes.
And you can't really see the cell boundaries very easily, but they're actually, if you focus on them very carefully, you can see how they're all like 5 or 6 slices of the pie. And what's in the center there is actually a very thin tubule that ultimately open up into the pancreatic duct that goes into the common bile duct, that goes into the duodenum, because that's the route that the enzymes take, which is what these cells make.
So if you ask what the function of the acinar cells was, you would say either transportation
yeah, that's an endocrinology course. I probably would be more inclined to ask you about these guys.
Cool.
Okay. All right, so that's, but just to explain what you see, you know, since that's what most of the cells are. So that's adrenal pancreas. What did we do after that? That was
And then we took a big break.
everything till we got to the reproductive ones. That's the rest of it. But as long as we're in the non-reproductive ones,
That's it?
We're not going to have any frogs in
Break
our
until the...
I could do bone, but I don't. He doesn't have
Wait,
bone
so
in
this
his
is the
bone.
plans in the beginning, and then we had.
If you want to, the one on developing endochondral bone, I don't see the slide. Do you have, Barams, do you have a slide, a developing endochondral bone slide? Although that's,
Alright, let's do the mail.
huh?
Let's do the mail.
Let's do the mail. Yes, we can. Okay. I'll try to do this fast.
Late days as possible.
One last question about the pancreas.
Yeah.
You can't distinguish